Boy, it's been interesting setting up for this build. Uh, I think I like building things more than flying, etc., etc. I did find my um, F765 wing that I was going to use for the Caipirinha II. I can't put pins on it, on either one of them, because that equipment bay right there isn't big enough, tall enough for pins, and to get the cover back on, I'm going to go ahead and use the H743 that's sitting in there. I also found another one of those exact same compass GPS modules, so I'm going to set these two back over in the box for the second Sky Hunter. But let me move this camera up. Plan of attack is going to be, first we'll just get some of this stuff out of the way so you can see. I'm going to actually use a Crossfire Nano Pro receiver over here in this wing. There's a bay underneath here that I'll put that in, and then this shielded cable is going to have to come through a channel that's already in there, right up through here, comes out through here. Sadly, it's going to have to go around this bay close to this GPS module, but it is shielded twisted pair, come through and then be cut someplace in here to go up and hook to the flight controller in the front. So that takes care of that. Move that out of the way. The GPS, I'm just going to put over here, right where it's sitting. I'm just going to fix it down right there and put the top on. I don't see any reason that this thin piece of foam is going to affect it at all. But that's the door that goes back on it there. The wires only come over to about right here, so it's going to be a bummer to maybe not. Yeah, it's not going to be that bad. I started to say it's going to be a bummer to lengthen these wires, but I can take the connector loose in there, get my links right, and then thread this connector back through this hole right here to get that over there. So that's going to be much easier than I was thinking. Set that aside now. And the ends will be cut off, these servo wires for each elevon, and affixed to their appropriate channel 1 and channel 2 over there. One of the worst thing is this little board was screwed down inside. I don't think it's going to matter. It's all going to be in parallel if I take that and affix it back down in there like it was after I solder to it. The thing is the solder pads for power are on the left side of it, right there. And there's no solder pads unless I check these two holes right here with a meter and perhaps solder to them. Whoops. But there's not. There's solder pads here and here. And these holes are actually, these holes are actually put another 2 more XT60s in, like this is done. So that should be, I should be able to solder to these 2 holes rather than have to go all the way over to there. So you can hook in 3 batteries. Now I'm going to be using a battery that almost completely fills this tray. It's a big old, 6,000, almost 6,000 4S. So I'll solder to these 2 holes and bring my power over to the power on the flight controller here. And even though these 2 wires won't be hooked to the flight controller, Matter of fact, I don't even have to use big wires to go over to the flight controller for the battery power, because there won't be much current being pulled. Yeah. And then what else? Anyway, gotta figure on that a little more. Not sure. Yeah, I don't think these two wires actually have to go with the flight controller. I'll look at that a little deeper. And of course, you know, there's a little bit of a problem here. This is the assembly that came with the darn thing. Like I say, the little board was screwed down in there. I thought I would be cutting these wires and hooking them to the flight control over here, but perhaps not. And then the control wire, of course, goes up to channel 3 through the little channel in here. But the thing is after that's fixed back down, you got these 3 motor wires. And then where does this ESC go? I mean, it's just a bummer in there. Do you try to put it sideways? No. This is just going to be a real bummer to put that in there, especially with all the wires that are here. Whoops, knocking the camera around here. See what I'm talking about? We'll just move that out of there for a second and look at what I've got left. Putting that in there and the wires in there. It's just not pretty, and I'm just going to have to figure out something else there. That's just, man. It don't go in there sideways. So it's got to go front to back somehow. That be screwed down in there, and then, yep, it looks like that's what's going to end up happening. And I might shorten these motor wires. Can you shorten the motor wires? Or does that get timing off? Anyway, that area right there is just a real bummer. And everything going to be going through there. Like I say, at least the receiver wire. The GPS and compass wires are not shielded cable. Anyway, you can sort of see how I've got a little bit of a problem with this ESC that isn't completely figured out yet. And this has not been glued in. Come on out. So I set that aside. Set the ESC aside. This is the airspeed sensor. I'm gonna guess I knocked the camera around pretty good. This would be the hole where the 5.8 video is coming out. Video transmitter will be in a bay underneath here. I got in on order, got the camera on order. Camera's simple, 3 wires go from the camera right straight back to right here on the flight controller. No big deal. Video transmitter's the same. Wires come out of that bay, go up through and go through this servo bay, come out right there where that servo wire is, and goes up to the VTX. 3 wires right here. So 3 wires from the camera, 3 wires over from the VTX. That's it. I'm going to take this connector off and try to run this wire through there and get it in or near the enclosure for the video transmitter. The video transmitter doesn't take it all up for the airspeed sensor. And then I'm going to try to mount the airspeed sensor in the wing right here, sticking out. That leaves this cable. This is where the USB hooks in, and I lost model buzzer on this board. It's a little daughter board that is for the 743. That's just going to go back through. Well, I figured it was going to go back through the hole here and be glued in someplace right here to be easily hooked to with the USB cable, but I guess it's going to come forward into this battery bay and be someplace in this area or something like that and the excess wire will have to be taken care of. So that's basically it. And this is just a standalone high definition, gyro flow capable HD camera. So, last but not least, after there's a wire in the way in there. Anyway, we won't worry about these tops right now. Also gets hooked to the flight controller is this little LED board. It's only got 8 LEDs on it. It's going to go right on the bottom of the motor mount in the back, right there behind the prop, and be programmed for different things. So that's the plan. And then I think this battery's 5800 4S. I think that was what was planned for in there. We'll get that in there a little better before we fly it. But this is supposed to be a long range wing. I may put a second camera on it at some point, facing backwards. And that may be more a function of CG and lateral balance than anything. If this works out the way it is, then I might leave it alone. But if this side's more heavy because of flight controller, video transmitter, airspeed sensor, camera, and airspeed P-dot tube not offset by, I'm hoping this big camera will offset all that weight on that wing. The GPS and the RC receiver isn't going to be much of a help. I could switch to the Dragon Link receiver out here and give it a little more weight in this wing. But again, I was also thinking that digging down a hole here where I can mount the camera with the lens just flush with the surface, if that's what it needs for lateral balance at some point. Maybe putting a second or could come up here and, well, there's carbon spar right there, reinforcement spar right there. But I have to think about that more. Just mounting a second camera facing aft might be a pretty good way to balance it back out if it's not well balanced right to left. That's just some forward thinking. Now I'll put it together as I've described it here and see how it all works. Then we'll tweak it till it works well. I'm excited to build this one. Thanks, guys.